Yep. Have you ever met, and I think my wife, maybe her intuition is better than most, or maybe it's just a female characteristic. I'm not sure.
Well, my wife's
But
intuition is better than mine,
yeah,
so
I've heard. No. But like w- my wife is really good if we meet somebody new
hmm
within minutes. It's crazy. Within minutes.
hmm
She'll be like, "Yeah, I don't like that person."
yeah,
Be like, we talked to the dude for 2 minutes. What do you mean you don't like? She's like, "I just don't have a good feeling."
yeah,
And I would say 9 times out of 10, it shakes out that she is correct
hmm
on that. So it's whatever, like, I feel like people can sense, even though like we talk about it's your energy, it's your emotion, whether you're trying to fake it or whether you're not real about it, people sense that.
hmm
So like if your heart's not fully in it and you don't want to do this or you don't want to be here for whatever reason, or you're having a shitty day and you're just like, my life sucks, like people feel that.
hmm
And that will be the biggest deal killer for you is just, I mean, that energy like
hmm
that we're talking about. It's just
hmm
you have negative energy or aura, hang it up. You better go find a desk job that you don't have to talk to people. You just pick up, do the same thing over and over again.
hmm
But it is so true that people just feel that right away.
They sure do. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about organic versus manufactured.
Yeah.
Right? Can you give any examples of times where you weren't in the right mood, but you still were able to hit, or maybe the opposite, it completely lost the account for you?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people, they go through waves
hmm
of motivation.
hmm
Motivation comes and goes. You're not always going to be motivated. And we get these people that come in here or in any sales organization. And I feel like every sales organization has one of these guys that you feel like every time you turn around, it's like, all right, man, I gotta have another conversation with this guy to talk him off the ledge just one more time, just one more time. So I think those people right there are naturally not salespeople. Like those are the
hmm
people that probably shouldn't be in the sales realm because you have to understand that you ride this ebbs and flows of highs and lows, and it's inevitable. Now,
hmm
if you can figure out a way to always ride a high, I mean, let me know because I'm not always on that high. I try to be as much as I can,
That's
but
manufactured in a
right.
different way,
Yeah.
laboratory or in
So I would say
cocoa plants,
there has to be a little bit.
Oh yeah.
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 So there's always going to be a little bit of manufacture
hmm
whatsoever. Or like it's just inevitable that you're going to have a little bit of manufactured. But if you are outweighing the organic with the manufacturer, I don't think you're probably in the right realm. You're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. Probably don't want to be here. So I always say I have good days and I have better days. I don't have bad days.
hmm
So it's like, and it's a mindset. So it's like, yep, today was a good day.
hmm
Nope, today was a better day. So you say that you tell yourself you don't have bad days. Now, are there days that you come in and you're like, man, I'm just really feeling it today? Absolutely.
hmm
But typically those days, I'm not out selling. I'm most likely behind my desk catching up on stuff because I do sense that people feel that. There
hmm
has been accounts. I mean, I can think of one a couple weeks ago that I didn't give the guy my full effort,
hmm
and it was because I was getting ready to leave. Can't remember where we're going. We're going out of town. Guy was pushing me to get a quote to him. I half-assed it to him. Didn't give him kind of like my full. And then the following Tuesday, he's like, "Yeah, I decided to go with somebody else." And I
Right.
was like, "Well," and like I've been thinking about that
You're like,
deal.
I knew you would.
Like it's not even a big deal, but it's like to me, I was like, "Man, I really fucked that up."
Yep.
So like you self-loathe a little bit, and you're like,
Yeah.
like, dude, I really like how did I fuck that up? That like
Yeah.
this deal, I told myself this deal is so easy,
yeah.
and then I screwed it up. But then I looked back and I was like, okay, I can self-reflect. This is what I did wrong. This is what I want to make sure I don't do anymore.
hmm
So if somebody's pushing you to do something and you're not fully there,
hmm
like tap somebody else in. Like I think a lot of people naturally as salespeople, we have big egos. I mean, mine's very small. But
Why?
we have big egos, and
yeah.
it's because we hold ourselves to like a different standard.
hmm
And naturally, as you sell more, or as you become more successful, or you become at the top of the leaderboard, you just naturally you're like, no, no, like I worked hard for the past 10 years to get to where I'm at today.
hmm
So yeah, I do deserve to like hold that standard a little bit higher for me. Now, are there right ways and wrong ways to do it? Absolutely. But as a good salesperson, you should always self reflect back. And I think a lot of people can't. They'll just be like, I don't even know if they even think about it. They're like, nope, I just lost that deal.
Hmm.
And they're like, no big deal. I'm like, well, what did you do wrong?
Yeah. Well, this is another bullet point I want to go over, but you already organically brought it up. But I firmly believe that the best salespeople are people with incredibly competitive
Yeah.
backgrounds, heavy, heavy sports
Yeah.
backgrounds, right? And people can be competitive in more things than just sports, but generally, athletes, they are the easiest people to mold into a great salesperson. And that comes from that,
Yep.
which is I hate to lose this feeling right here. I never want to feel it again. So I literally will crawl through glass to figure out how to not feel
Yeah.
this way again.
But there's not a lot of people out there that's willing to do that, which
Exactly.
is the problem.
Yeah.
It's this. I was talking to a client this morning about this. We had little Chris there, and I said, no offense to you, Chris, but I was like, the generation that is coming up now, they want everything handed to them. They're not willing to do whatever it takes to get them to where they need to be.
Hmm.
And I don't know at what point that we lost that
Hmm.
or where that went by the wayside, but I'm like,
Dan, you boomer,
fucking A
dude.
guys. No, seriously, like I feel like even my age group, I'm just like we talked about in the last podcast, the 1%. It's
Mhm,
like you either have it inside you or you don't,
mhm,
because there's certain people. It always amazed me. I would in the car business when was in the finance department. I'd look at these people's credit apps,
mhm,
and they'd be like, at this job for 25 years, making $15,000 a year. And I'm like, how have you been at this job for 20 years,
mhm,
making $15,000 a year? Like,
mhm,
have you not wanted better for yourself? Like, are you just happy with going through the motions and just not progressing in life?
mhm.
But some people are happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are happy with that. I don't know a single salesperson
Yeah.
who's a true salesperson who
Right.
is, right? And a lot of, I mean, are a lot of salespeople who are 100% money motivated,
Yeah.
right? They're, and which is fine.
Yeah.
That's the industry for them to
Yeah.
be in. I'm not. Mine is. I mean, I like money for what it does for me. I
Yeah.
don't, worship it,
Yeah.
right? It's like I
Money,
want the fuel,
money is an
right?
object to allow you to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah, provide the security and protection
Yeah.
for your family or whatever
Do
that it
fun
is.
things, go on
Right.
vacations. Yeah.
Right. Maybe, maybe your ultimate goal is to actually shop in this inflated economy, at the grocery store and not have to,
Right.
throw things back because
Yeah.
that one's $3 and this one's two.
Yeah. Like
Right.
I don't want to have to look at the price tag
Yeah.
every time I go buy something.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
So,
I want this, so I'm going to just buy
yeah.
it.
But not just so it's not just the money motivation behind it for salespeople. I feel like the ones that are the best have a firm grounding and understanding of what they want to do monetarily with their
Yeah.
lives, but they have a real true dedicated purpose, and then they also have that paired, right? So maybe it's family, maybe it's a goal to start their own business, and they need a seed plant or they need to build their investment fund or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Maybe there's something, right? And then they also have that paired with the competitive spirit.
Yep.
That's dynamite. That's
Yep.
a
Yeah.
dynamite duo right there,
Yeah.
right? You have a true why factor. You understand the value of the position that you're in, so you're willing to give everything that's necessary, and you're willing to crawl through glass as you do it because you fucking hate
Yep.
losing, right? That's a salesperson.
Yeah. I don't like I do not like losing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, thankfully in this industry, and I guess we can talk about this a little bit, is we talk about the why factor in this industry, and we can talk about, I mean, it can go in relation with being an organic or manufacturer, however we want to look at that. Obviously, I think we know that organically is probably the best way to go. You can have a little bit of manufacturer. Maybe other people see it the other way around. Maybe they're like, no, sales is manufactured, but I think it just comes down to the philosophy of what you truly believe. So you could probably ask 100 people. I'm sure you're going to get 100 different answers. But why do you what's your why as far as being a
Um, I,
salesman?
I think my why behind wanting to always stay in sales was I think it opened my mind up when I first started selling to how powerful the tool is.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot about it. Yeah, I understood wholeheartedly that if I don't master this particular piece, I'm never going to be able to own a business. I'm never going to be able to create a service and get it out there. It'll die just as fast as it was created. And on top of that, just how much more valuable it is to be an effective communicator in general, right? Regardless of where you are or what you're doing, you have to sell something to somebody, Like people could pretend that all they want to, that they're not. People that maybe hermit themselves from reality.
You're
That
sold every day. No
you're,
matter what you do, you're being sold.
yeah, you're being sold or you are selling.
Yep.
Right? And it's like, whether that's it's the interviews, it's picking, finding your spouse, whether it's winning the promotion, whether it's this, you have to position yourself that you're the best applicant at all times. And that takes a significant amount of communication skills. It takes a significant amount of confidence. Some of it is assumption, right? My brother-in-law actually told me something I thought was really cool the other day. He's naturally a gifted salesperson. He doesn't work in sales. He did it for a stint, but he doesn't work in sales right now. But the dude is like being envied by other people, and then that envy turned into jealousy, and kind of like being the brunt of other people's issues, because when he went to a culture building event down in Texas, he works for Oxy, so he's a pumper. He
Yeah.
does production, oil, and essentially make sure that the oil is coming out of the ground and is getting where it needs to go, and that the tools and all the things are working, right? He's the guy that makes sure it still flows all the time, money's being made. So there's not a lot of sales involved with that. But what he did was we went down this culture building thing, and three of the top executives from Oxy, which is a massive billion-dollar company, right? Three of the top executives come in and kind of introduce themselves. And he, just his personality, started joking with one of the most powerful people in his entire organization, picking at this guy, giving him a nickname, and he left a imprint on this guy's memory,
Yeah.
right? So this guy literally refers to John as Junior, right? He refers to John as something of that nature, and he's like, there's a Oxy division here in Colorado that's like probably 5,000 people, and I bet you that guy only knows the name of 5 people, and one of them is John, right?
That's pretty powerful.
Right. So like it's like what the takeaway is, what I'm trying to get at there is the value of being willing to get into an uncomfortable position, because generally human interaction, especially when there's a purpose behind the interaction, like you want something, it's very uncomfortable for most people. But when you get comfortable with the uncomfortable, you become unstoppable.
Yep.
And that's what I like about sales. It makes me better in every way, shape, and form as a human being, right? That's what motivates me in sales, particularly. Yep. Yeah.
I would say mine's kind of changed. I would say when I first got into sales, it was very profit driven.
Yep.
It was very money. I like kind of like you. We grew up in a very low income household. You tried not to ask for a lot of things because then it really put a burden or like a strap on the family. So for me, it was like, hey, I know this is my way to kind of break this cycle that a lot of my family has lived in and kind of progress. But then I had a turning point at a certain point in time. I can't remember exactly when it was, but then I really started looking at, I said, you know what? I need to change this where it's people over profit.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did that, I think my sales career really took off. And that's kind of goes back into relationship building and stuff like that. But it's like as soon as I started putting people first and fully realizing, like fully understanding what that meant of like actually doing what's right by the customer, doing what's in their best interest, not just in my financial interest. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you take care of the people or you truly relate to that person versus like, hey, let's just make this sell, then I think honestly, no matter what you do in any profession, I think that can correlate.
I agree. I used to, when I worked in the gym industry, I used to talk to people when they were coming into into the doors, because you knew that they were questioning, like they want to change something in their
Yeah.
life, right? They were ready for a change. They need some kind of spark, like somebody that's like, dude, I got your back,
Yeah.
right? And that was pretty fun to be in that position. It's like you build these ideas in their head of how powerful they can become once they start to gain discipline in their life and stuff like that. And I used to say these phrases like, aesthetics are a byproduct of hard work and discipline, right? Like, because people, like, they look at, like, regular gym goers and they're like, that dude is, I don't know, self-centered. That guy's this, that guy's whatever. Like, why do you need all those muscles? He's all for show,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I'm like, no, that dude is disciplined.
Yep.
Right? That guy has freed himself from his brain. He's
Yep.
forced himself to do the things in the dark that nobody wants to see, and he's shining in the light. That dude is disciplined,
Yep.
right? And it's like, don't you want to have people look at you and immediately they're like, that guy has got something going on, or that girl has got something going on. I want to be around them, right? That's what hard work and discipline will do. So in the world of sales, it's the same thing. When you say people over profit, profit is the byproduct of hard work and discipline. And when that discipline is focused on serving that client. Have you ever watched or read The Go Giver?
No.
Um, it's Go Giver, right? I might be referencing the wrong book. No, it's The Go Giver. So, anyways, in The Go Giver, they talk about essentially the laws of stratospheric success is a term that they use, and being able to weigh to calculate your own net worth as a human based off of how much you're serving the world around you, right? And their theory is that the more you offer yourself in service instinctively and without asking, the more you are going to be given in return,
Yeah.
whether that's money or whatever. But it's like the more you offer yourself for a good reason to the people around you, the more you're automatically going to have the byproduct of the monetary success.
I like the philosophy in the church. It's like you're giving your offering, so then and then in turn,
Yeah,
you're gonna
but
be taken
when
care
you're
of.
doing it willingly and
Right.
out of a genuine heart, right? That's the difference. Like the people go in and they're like, "This is my last $1,000.
Right.
God, please turn it into 10,000. Right? I need this." It might not happen,
Yeah.
or it may. It
Yeah.
just may be 10 years down the
Right.
road, and this triggered something. But God works in mysterious
Yep.
ways. But it's like a cheerful giver. Expecting nothing in return is always going to get the return.
Yep.
They're always going to get the return. That's the way that the world works. Right?
Or it's like people that do something and then they have to make it known to everybody else that they did that just to get that acclamation
God,
to.
the
It's
thing-
like, come on,
those
dude.
YouTube videos,
Why the fuck did you
people
do
walking
that?
around handing $1,000 to
Yeah.
hobos and
Yep.
stuff. Like,
Yeah.
like that's cool.
But they're
But
doing it for
I hate you now.
Yeah, they're
I will
doing it for
never
the
watch
views.
you again,
Yep.
right? Because you are not doing this with a grace or a giving heart,
Yep.
right? You're just looking for the likes. You're a pick me guy,
Yep.
right?
Pick me.
What's that?
You're 50.
50? Okay.
We're at 50 already?
Gee, many Christmas.
Jeez.
We have these
Well,
good conversations.
I want to bring up one more conversation. I know we're at 50 minutes, making the podcast long. Maybe we can split up in 2 segments.
Yeah,
But I want to bring up, and this might stir the pot for some people, but when you mentioned being envious and jealousy in the sales world. Do you ever feel, and I'll give you my opinion in a second, as being a top performer, maybe in the gym world, I don't know how you ranked in the gym world or whatever sales roles that you've had, how do you feel like people perceive you, your coworkers? How are you perceived? Are you perceived well with them? Do you think it's jealousy? Do you think it's envy? Give me your thoughts on that.
So, I used to think that everybody liked me.
Yeah. You're fucking wrong. You were wrong.
I used to think that. Well, thanks, Dan. So I guess you don't like me. Fuck, man.
I can tell you, I like you.
Just tell me whatever you want to say. No, I'm just kidding. You're a salesman. You just say whatever you want. Just kidding, guys. That's what we're talking about. Anyways, no, it's funny. So when I worked for a gym company called Vasa,
Yep.
Vasa is a pretty big chain. They started out of Utah. They were about like 15 years old before they came into Colorado. And I was working for a different competitor. Things didn't work out between me and the owners of that organization, and I left. I ended up going to work for the competitor, right? And when I got there, I worked for them for, I think, 5 or 5.5 months. And I set a record that has still never been beaten for an entire fiscal year for any salesperson that's ever worked there, right? So I sold so much personal training that it doubled the next best entire year of a salesperson
It's pretty badass.
in 5.5 months, right? Yeah, I was very strategic. I worked very hard. I also had a baby coming, and I needed some money. Right?
Gotta buy these
So
diapers.
there's a lot of motivation there, right? And discipline, whatever. But anyways, I thought everybody loved me. You know, I thought the in exchanges I always had were like, dude, you're killing it. And like, no, dude, you're killing it. Let's work together.
Yeah.
You know, tag me in when you need an up or whatever, right? And come to find out about a year later, I talked to one of the guys that was a good friend, or he wasn't a good, he was an acquaintance, I guess, because we didn't talk after I left. So we were great business or friends from work, but we weren't friends outside of work. Anyways, we met up and he goes, dude, everybody's been talking about you. I was like, dude, I haven't worked there in like 2 years.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, they had to clean up your mess. And I was like, what mess? And they're like, you talked too many people who couldn't afford training into buying personal training, and they all canceled. And I was like, wait. So I talked people into doing something they already wanted to do, and they failed to budget themselves and make it a priority in their expenses, and you're mad at me for it?
Right.
And I cheated?
Yeah.
I was like, sounds like
Yeah.
you guys just have no sales skill,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, yeah, it turns out evidently not everybody likes you. But I've always kind of had a universal liked nature, and because I'm not in people's faces.
Yeah.
I'm not rubbing things in. I'm always there to help. I'm always genuine. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who really dislike me because they never beat me.
Yeah.
You're the only one, bud. So congratulations. He said, I'm sure you've been on the top at least once. Like, no, motherfucker, I've been on the top my whole life. Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way, okay? Let's not get offended.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's good.
and I agree with that. I feel like a lot of people, especially in the sales world, we all, like I said earlier, we all have big egos, but I do feel like it is very lonely at the top. And what I mean by that is that the more success that you have that somebody else is not having, they will always find an excuse to say, oh, well, he's getting those deals because he's this person, or somebody's feeding him those deals. It's like, no, motherfucker, I just worked 72 days straight
Yeah.
to get to where I'm at today. When I first got in the car business, I
Read
worked.
the receipts.
Right.
Check out my punch-ins.
Right. I worked
Yeah.
72 consecutive days when I first got in the car business, and that put me on top right away.
Yep.
So, but you get all these people that they just find an excuse or an avenue of like, oh, fuck that guy because he does this, this, and this, but
Yeah.
they're not willing to put in the extra effort.
Well, and that's all. I guess I didn't really think about from that perspective. Those particular people where that's what the word around the street was, like Christians being handed all the layups.
Yeah.
Christian. Well, in
House mouse.
in the gym world, like there are some pretty snaky dudes,
Yeah.
right? And so they'll see like plus size couple come in,
Yeah.
like bingo,
Boom. Yeah.
right? And it's like these guys are coming to change your life, and I can work them against each other. And hold them accountable. I'm
Yeah.
gonna sell this shit. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the flop,
Yeah.
the fish,
yeah.
the layup, whatever. right?
Flopper.
Like that's
We got a
that's the
flopper
one,
here.
That's the one you want to sell
Yeah.
personal training to, right?
Yeah.
Because you're probably 90% successful even as a shitty salesperson. So
Yeah.
those guys that snake it and they like accuse you of doing things like that, but it's in all actuality, it was a simple up system. It was next in the door. There's somewhere between 3 to 5 people on the floor. Next in the door is the next person on a ghost. Right?
Yep.
It's pretty simple, right? But I worked. Well, luckily with Vasa, they allowed me to do something that I didn't allow people to do at the last gym beforehand, which was that I could work off the clock. I could sell off the clock. So, and they also, based off of my conversion ratios, allowed me to pick my positions. So I set my calendar, my regular paid schedule on the heaviest foot traffic times
Yeah.
of the gym, right? I knew that Monday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. was the busiest time, and it's going to be the most sales abundant as well because people think in fitness just like they think in the New Year's resolutions, which is I'm going to give up by Tuesday, but I'll be back on Monday.
Yep.
Why not be back on Wednesday,
Right.
right? But they don't, right? It'll be back on Monday, right? So that's when the sales really happen. So I knew exactly the points, but nobody else knew that because I had spent time in the industry. I had earned the ability to know when I wanted to work and when I didn't.
Yeah.
And then I also spent somewhere between 5 to 7 additional hours on the gym floor ripping people and doing the thing, right? It's
Yeah.
just
That's
I
how it
just
should
worked
be.
harder,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's moral of the story. Work fucking harder.
Yeah, it is.
It's that simple.
And I like about sales, I said one of the biggest drivers for me is the competitiveness of it. It's not like I don't feel like every roof salesman in the world is my enemy or something like that. I'm not working against them. It's you versus you as a salesperson, right? You can't blame anybody else when you do something wrong.
Yeah.
You missed the follow up. You didn't take the cue from the client when they were ready to buy. You pitched too long.
You didn't prospect.
Whatever it is, you didn't
Yeah.
knock the doors,
Yep.
right? It's always you. It's you versus you. That's why I love the sport of wrestling. That's why we talked about it for 4 podcasts or whatever it was. It was like you can't blame anybody when you lose in wrestling. It's a 100% equal bout. You are the exact same size as the person that you're wrestling. You have there's nothing.
Yep.
It's you versus you, period. And in the sales world, that's the same.
Accountability.
Yeah. Are you personally accountable to yourself and to your actions?
If I had to say, a lot of people, if they just self-reflected, the personal accountability in all facets, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to be better at your job, whatever you're trying to do, it all comes back down to, are you willing to do it? Are you willing to hold yourself accountable? Most of the time, that answer is no.
Yeah.
I rather sleep in a little bit longer. I rather scroll Instagram instead of going to the gym. I rather lay in the bed and watch Netflix. These ho-hos taste really good instead of having a protein shake. Whatever it is,
Right.
it comes back down to self-accountability.
It sure does. It sure does. Regardless, yeah, it's all a choice,
Yep.
right? And in sales, you get to, and that's one of the biggest drivers to want to be in sales, and encourage anybody out there try your hand and see if you can be accountable enough to yourself,
Yep.
right? Because it's what it is. You get to determine your fate,
Yep.
right? If you get good at it's just the theories and the methodologies and the psychology around sales, you can pick that up and put it anywhere in your life or any job that you want to be in, right? A salesman's a salesman. Doesn't matter the product.
Yep.
Right. Now, fortunately for us, we've got the best product.
We do. And we do what we love.
Right. And I always give that. I gave that in the last episode, but I'll say it again here. As somebody who's a salesperson who wants to grow in this, who wants to master their communications levels, stuff like that. Just make sure that you're linking yourself to something that you believe in.
Right.
Right. That's the biggest and most important part. There's a lot of salesmen in the world who are selling you junk.
Yeah. That you don't need.
That you don't need.
Yep.
I don't subscribe to that. I'm in goods and services that are necessary, that are things that make your life better. I'm into services or lifestyle things. That's why I was in the gym industry for so long. I believe in the gym industry. Wholeheartedly, right? I still am very motivated by it. I just don't work there any longer.
Right.
But it was very apparent to me when my time while I was trying to. Well, I actually ended up getting into professional school and stuff. But I wanted to be a doctor, and I didn't like the way that medical schools were really promoting health. It was always reactive, and so I was like, why don't we stop problems before they start?
Yep.
Or why don't we naturally reverse this back by just teaching people disciplined habits in their life that's going to stop them from having 95% of these problems that you're
That's true.
pitching
Yeah.
pills down their throat for,
Yeah.
right? I didn't like that part of it, so I dove into something I cared about, right? Me and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. probably have a lot in common, right?
I'm excited to see that. Well, we can wrap this up, but I do want to say I appreciate your vision and just putting a quality product out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the biggest things that kind of drove me to come work here, and I consider this my home. Obviously, I've expressed that with you a billion times, and I'm excited that I beat you week in and week out. So no, but I do. I appreciate being with somebody else that is very like-minded, like myself. Somebody, there's not a week that I go into that I'm like, you know what? No offense to you. I'm like, fuck Christian. Like, I'm definitely beating him this week.
And maybe I think that's what I was trying to get at. It's like competition drives me.
Yeah.
Right. Like being the best when everybody else sucks.
It's no fun.
It's not much of a feat.
It's not fun.
Right. But
You almost lose the spark.
right. So like, and I think that's something that is a good determining factor on whether you've got a good sales team or not, is whether the competition drives them or whether it makes them negative.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, you put a front runner out there and they're really going for it. Are people trying to clip their heels, or are they fading back because they're
like, well, he's got it.
making excuses? Yeah. Trim the fat.
Yeah.
Build on that person. Build on people who want to step faster.
Yep.
Right. But anyways, yeah.
No.
I appreciate what you just said, though. It's we spent a long time trying to perfect our craft. It's still not perfect, and we understand that, but we're dedicated, obsessed with doing it better than everybody else, right?
And I think a lot of people see that. I think the community sees that. I think the employees are starting to see that. I mean, coming into this realm, it was foreign. It was completely foreign to me. I mean, I knew nothing about nothing in the construction roofing industry.
You didn't know shit about fuck.
Yeah, I know shit about fuck. And so for me, you start talking to people. They're like, "Oh, you're in roofing." They're like, "Oh." I'm like, "What do you mean? Oh, like, oh, those guys." I'm like, "Well, no, we're different." They're like, "Oh, yeah, that's what they all say." I'm like, "No, truly, we do. We stand behind what we say we're going to do, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent." I mean, how many times? I mean, I think me and you just had this conversation. 50, 70 grand this year off of a few things that a few people promised that we still upheld to our customers, even though that should have never been said.
Sure.
I
don't have an exact figure on it, but I know that we've lost at least $50,000 in repairing things that people we no longer have with us broke.
Yeah. So
Right.
that's, I mean, that's character. I mean, that's huge to our character that we're willing to stand and not be like, hey, hey, hands up, like that person's no longer
Problems
here.
on
Good
you.
luck.
We're
Yeah.
done, right?
Yeah.
We got paid already. We're
Yep.
done. No, not around here. And I think that's what I meant by saying, qualify the organization.
Yep.
If you're going to build a career in sales, qualify the organization. Are they aligned with your values? Are they doing right by their clients? Are they putting their clients first? Do you have the ability to actually live in that world of stratospheric success and the laws of reciprocity? Because if you do, you have a great foundation to be a good salesman.
Like he says in Wolf of Wall Street, we're going to take this thing to the stratosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways,
Little less animated than he was, but
fucking
stratosphere.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of F-bombs. I hope nobody really gets too offended. I think this was a good, energizing conversation. I have plenty more things in the world of the sales that we could talk about.
Ton of things to talk about.
There might be more. There might not be. It depends on the engagement. So that's it for today. Please like and subscribe. Engage in the content. Please ask us questions. If you'd like us to dial in a couple of these sales concepts or one of the other ones from before, just let us know and we'll tailor fit it to you.
Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Into the Lion's Den. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you've gathered enough ammunition to go out, fight the good fight, and become a better person every single day. Please like and subscribe, engage in our content, ask us some questions. We'd love to tailor fit the next episode to you.